Okay. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to our Ontario network of CAPC CPNP projects webinar offering this beautiful October 27th day in 2021. My name is Sydney Bell, and I'm the project lead for our Ontario network of CAPC and CPNP projects, and I'm really delighted to have you here with us. With me is Debbie Azim Fleming, and she is the project manager of Our Place Family Resource and Early Years Center. And I will be handing things over to her in just a moment, and she's got some wonderful information to share with us about an exciting project, book series, and webinar. But before we do that, I just have a couple of housekeeping things to mention. And the first is that you may have noticed that a notification that this event is live stream, and what that is our closed captioning. So if you would like to have subtitles, you just need to click on closed captioning. There should be a little up arrow there where you can select to show subtitles. And then you'll be able to read along as well as listen. And yes, and again, the invitation is to please stay muted and stay off camera if you can, so that we can have a nice clean recording. If you do have questions, and we certainly do welcome them, please feel free to put them in the chat, and I will be moderating that chat for our presenter. And so let's move into our session. And before I introduce our presenter and hand things over to her, I would just like to begin by offering a territorial and land acknowledgement. This is, this is quite a journey that we're on in Truth and Reconciliation, and I am learning more about what a land acknowledgement is and what their purpose are as I navigate my way through this, like we all are. And so what I am learning is that what is more helpful is a more personal sharing than perhaps reading off a prescribed, few sentences that, we repeat over and over that can perhaps lose their meaning. So what I would like to share is that thinking about the land and offering an acknowledgement, that I come to my relationship with the land through my life as a white settler and growing up and living most of my adult life in the prairies, which is Treaty 6 territory. And now I'm living here in Southern Ontario, which is the traditional territories of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and Neutral peoples. My spiritual worldview reaches back through Celtic roots and my ancient ancestors, and they understood and experienced the world through the three realms of land, sea, and sky. And so thinking about the realm of land, or our Mother Earth who sustains us, and I'd like to offer the thought that it's our home, and it grounds us and supports our physical well-being. So when we take these moments to come together and pause and reflect on the land and acknowledge, we have an opportunity to bring ourselves to the present moment, I think, and just invite ourselves to be fully present in what we're undertaking, what we're listening, and what we're gathered to do. So in that spirit, I offer honor and respect to the Indigenous peoples who have been stewards of the land where we are now since time immemorial. So thank you for listening to my little offering there. And with that, I would like to now hand things over to our gracious presenter who has come and giving of her time to share with us about this really exciting project, book and webinar series. So Debbie, hello and welcome.
Thank you, Sydney. Thank you so much, everyone, for having me today. So glad to join this great network. And I think I mentioned to Sydney that I have a history with CAPC CPNP from back in the late 90s or so, when our agency I was working with was looking at getting the proposal ready. And also the agency also became a sponsoring agency for some time. So lots of history, and so nice to be back together with the network. I'm currently a project manager with Our Place Family Resource and Early Years Center. And for the last 2 years, I've been working on a project that was a Lyle Hallman funded project that we had looking at exploring self-regulation in the early years. So what I'd like to do first is to start, before getting to the PowerPoint, a video that was a clip of 2 of our project team members, Anna and Kathleen, talking about the project at about the midway point of our project. This was a clip that was done for the self-regulation symposium at the Merit Center, and also was shared at our, we had an event called Journey to Core Regulation this past summer at Our Place. It was a webinar. And so I'd like to share that with you to start, and then I'll move into the PowerPoint. One thing I want to mention is we did a little test with Sydney and I, and there seems to be some gray bar that might show up on both the video and the PowerPoint. I apologize ahead of time. I did not know that was showing up when I did some tests earlier. So maybe I think it's, if it hopefully won't interfere too much with what you're seeing, but please ask questions if it is. And then maybe, you know, maybe be more listening than actually reading this time. So my apologies for that. So I will now try and hopefully play that clip. Let's see. All righty. Share sound.
We try really hard to make sure that parents do have a voice in that transition component, and that they really become the advocates that they are for their children. So with the new lens of exploring self-regulation is where we are right now.
Responsive conversations were so key to this. It's the listening more than the talking. So we really want to dig into that and make sure that we were attuned to everything that was happening, and not just as families, but within our community as well.
One of the main things that we've learned is that parents are needing a space to connect. And when they physically are not able to visit a center, visit a site, they still need that support system.
So like when they're in a situation with a child, how do they action that head knowledge, but because they're in the situation too? So it's unpacking that in the moment for the parents, with the parents, so they understand that when they're in those circumstances, it is hard to access that head knowledge. And that's one of our key starting points.
And another thing that came out of the project as of right now is a program called Bridging the Two Worlds, Home to Kindergarten.
Self-reg is something that you have to be prepared that it unveils sometimes not things that are always pretty. You start unpacking things, you might get uncomfortable, it might be a little messy, but that is so important to do because that's where the learning takes place. So I think that was another thing that came out. And then that's where that soft eyes come in. You have to live the soft eyes for yourself.
I think with working with families, again, children don't come to us on their own. They come within the context of the family. So understanding that it's a unit, and a lot of the times the things that people are questioning are always directed at children, but you have to look at a bigger picture. You have to take the family into consideration and understanding the relationships that they have and the stressors that everybody's experiencing.
It's taught me to look at family members differently, and the way I view experiences and what might be stress for them.
When you apply those soft eyes, it does magic.
We are always co-learners in this process with our community, with our parents that we're engaging with the children, which is deep-rooted in our pedagogical approach.
Thank you. I'm going to just open the PowerPoint now. Just bear with me.
We're here with you.
Thanks so much. Okay. All righty. Now I just have to start the show. Okay. Okay. Can you see this?
Yes, I do see it.
Okay. And are the gray lines still there?
You do have just oh, it moved up. I don't know. Did you just move something?
I moved a little thing like mute, like my little thing at the top. Maybe I should try and put this down below. How's that? Does that help? Does that change things or no?
Oh,
nope,
yeah, that moved the gray bar down to the bottom.
The bottom, okay, I'm gonna try and keep that because I think that's my
Sure.
bar that's showing. Okay. All righty, so let's start then. So thank you, everyone. So as I said, this is our Exploring Self-Regulation in the Early Years project. And one of the things to just share with you is prior to doing this project, our place had done this previous work on looking at pedagogy in the early years. And one of the understandings that came from that was looking at self-regulation and how important that was. So that led us to that second exploration of self-regulation. So, oh, let me just see. Oh, sorry, I skipped over this one. Yes. So the goals that we identified in the project were listed as, strengthening self-regulation in children, building capacity of parents, and looking at turning theory and development knowledge into evidence-based practices. The one thing that's interesting for me in looking at these early goals of the project is that co-regulation is not mentioned here in our goals, and that actually became something of discovery for us. I actually like to say that we went to explore self-regulation and we discovered co-regulation in the process. Oh, see, you could be skipping past here. Okay, so our process was looking at it from a research perspective and a design approach, trying to identify problems and insights, not looking for quick solutions at the beginning, but really delving into things so we could try to understand what we were seeing and looking at it from a problem-based perspective. So this is one of the graphics you saw in the earlier video clip, and we had Kathleen, who is a member of the team, who is very talented, and she was able to document a lot of our learnings along the way. We decided not to keep a lot of minutes, but instead try to capture what we were doing in this way so we could have some visuals and keep referring back to them. This particular visual I wanted to show you because on the very bottom right, which may now have a gray bar, it talks about co-regulation. And I'll read that to you. It says, what we had written at that time was, is there a slightly different focus? Has co-reg emerged as a key to self-regulation development? Also at the top right, we've got a little bubble talking about meaningful relationships and connections, which kept coming through the whole theme for us. Right. Design process, when you look at problem identification and you're looking at divergent and convergent thinking, you're doing a lot of clustering of ideas when you start to come up with ideas of what you want to work on. This is just an example of how we clustered some ideas that then led to our development of our resources and our tires, rise, and break series. So they were just stickies on the wall at one point. So then we looked at translating knowledge through our self-regulation and co-regulation resources and our tires and wires and brakes book series. So what I'm sharing with you now is just a visual of two resources that we have, starting with the self-regulation resource. And this is available for downloading on our website. And it just gives you a very brief summary of some concepts about self-regulation that hopefully may be helpful. We found that there's a lot of different understandings of the self-regulation, and we wanted to basically pull together what we were understanding and giving it a little bit of a focus. So one thing here in the right-hand side, it says, do you know what helps you to restore and refuel your energy tank, which is a key concept in self-regulation. And then the backside of that resource talks about what's happening in the brain, about detecting stress, and the stress alarm goes on. It also includes the Stuart Shankar's 5 steps of self-regulation at the top, and also the domains that Stuart Shankar has determined, the biological, emotional, cognitive, social, and pro-social domains that are really important to look at. And we actually vetted this with the Merit Center and got their approval for inclusion into the resource. Then the co-regulation resource is the one that really we spent a fair bit of time because there wasn't a lot out there just on co-regulation. And for us, we came up with a definition that sort of really echoed for us, which is, it's in the bottom of it there. It says co-regulation is a soothing, two-way interaction that helps to buffer stress and form trusting relationships. And move on to next, the other side of that looks at then what's happening in the brain when it comes to the stress and where you take a pause and where co-regulation kicks in, and how to find your calm and lend your calm, which are key concepts in co-regulation. So that led us then to our book series, which I'd like to talk a little bit about. Bear with me, let me catch up here. Okay. And this was what we came up with as a way of trying to translate the knowledge. This is introducing Opie, who is the main character in our book series of Tires, Wires, and Brakes. The series was co-authored by myself and Kathleen, who did the graphics. And of course, Kathleen did all of the illustrations with her graphic. The series that we worked on, we started in October of 2020, working on this. We focus tested it on parents, children, and educators. And so we had lots of fun doing that, lots of interesting feedback from the children that we worked with all on Zoom and with their parents present, and took that and really shifted what we wanted to present in the books, and so they could relate to children and parents and educators as well. Okay, so what I'd like to do next is to show you a video of that was at our launch of the book, the first book, Opie Needs a Repair, and also then a video clip of a parent educator, Nadine, talking with Dr. Jean Clinton, who was a scientific advisor on our project. So let me just see if I can play that, and hopefully it plays.
I'd like to go on a drive. Do you think I should go? Yeah?
We could pick yes, no, or maybe. What would you like to pick? You think no, he shouldn't go? You think he should go on a drive? You think he should? Okay, so we'll put in our choices.
Opie, what do you keep in Tinker? Well, I have a blanket, a book, and my favorite dinosaur. Roar!
I told Molly I did not want to come to the city. Opie starts to cry.
If you were upset, what would you have in Tinker to help you feel better? What would make you feel better? A book? That's a good
How do you
idea.
think Opie is feeling now? Happy?
Yes, wicked.
Happy? Okay. He's not feeling sad or angry anymore? Okay. You're right. He has a smile. He might be happy.
Welcome,
Okay.
Nadine.
Thank you, Dr. Dean. I'm Nadine Senak, and I am a registered early child educator for almost 25 years. And I actually am a mom of a 4-year-old who is in junior kindergarten this year as well.
Now, I understand that you have looked at the book through the eyes of a mum as well as an RECE. So I'm wondering, can you tell us a little bit about your impressions?
Yeah, so Kathleen had reached out to Isla and I, so Isla's my daughter, last November, December, to see if we'd be interested in just going through the first book that they had written in the series. And I said, absolutely. At the time, Isla had just turned 4, so she sat on my lap. Kathleen was reading her first book, and then would ask Isla questions afterwards. So we'd done that twice, and we were kind of just seeing what a 3-year-old would see or hear, or a 4-year-old would see or hear, and see what she picked up. And we fell in love with the book. We had no idea that there was going to be more in this series, but it started a conversation with Isla and I that we had before, but sometimes when a child hears it from somewhere else, especially with a book with pictures, they tend to want to talk more about it. So it had us talking about our feelings a lot. It had us talking about what we would do if we were feeling sad or upset or frustrated. So it was a great first introduction to co-regulation for my daughter and I. It was shortly after Isla had experienced having a seizure, unfortunately, and we had to go to a hospital, and she was very nervous at the time. So after reading this book, she had to go back for some testing that following winter, so January, February, and she actually brought up about having a tinker. So, and I'm like, what's a tinker? And she said, from that book, Mommy, that lady read to us. So tinker was a tinker box that was filled with her, filled with Opie's belongings that made him feel safe. So I said, well, what would you want to put in your tinker box? And she had suggested her bun, which is a little stuffy bunny. She suggested a picture of me, even though I was going with her, but she'd have holding with her, and she wanted one of her favorite books. So from 3 months ago, reading that book with Kathleen just through Zoom, she thought of that when we were heading to CHIO to the hospital, and she thought about needing something that would help her get through something that she was scared about. So again, we didn't have the book in front of us. We were just going from memory, but I remembered some parts of it that stood out. And one was Tinkerbox having the tools that could help somebody get through if they were upset or angry, and that she was wanting to do that part with me. So that was amazing. So we made up a little bag and she put her things in there, and it was an aha moment. It was like, yep, that book really resonated with both of us.
That is just music to my ears, because that is the core concept of co-regulation. What is it that you need to cope when you've got big feelings? So Nadine, as an RECE, a registered early childhood educator, how do you see the applicability in your work?
Through all of the edits, I was involved with all 4 of them. Every single time I said to Kathleen and Debbie that I would use this book in my classroom. I want it in the libraries. I want it in, as we were reading through the series, I saw it not just for early years, not just for kindergarten, but I saw it for years ahead, for all grades. Every book was adding more to the concept of co-regulation, especially during that last book that they will be releasing. But for me, I felt like it was very relatable. So in the first book, the authors really worked on having it interactive. So there was questions throughout it, like how do you think Opie's feeling now? Or who do you think Opie should call for help when the tire had flattened? So it was very interactive, and that's why I think Isla enjoyed it at being 4 years old. And I feel like I said to Kathleen that I would probably even read this at a 2-year-old level. Just because the pictures are amazing. They're very graphic and very colorful. The words are simple, yet you can bump that up and you can ask more about it as you read the story along. So for me, I would definitely use this in a small group in a classroom. I'd even use it in a large group, and then break it down as we read it.
Well, do you know what? You're obviously a very skilled emotion coach with your gorgeous little one. And it's so exciting that the plan for the team is to maybe have some support material to help. So, you know, as you say in the book, it's interactive, asking Opie, what feelings do you have? And what would you like to have in your Tinker? And so having a field guide or something like that, do you think that's going to be beneficial for those who may not be quite as well versed in emotional language as you are?
Absolutely. And I think just hearing that from my new 4-year-old, she had just turned 4 when we were introduced to this book. We had never given it a term. She would just pick up her bun and pick up a book. And now she has a bag. She doesn't have a Tinker box, but she has a bag that she'll put her things in when we're going somewhere different. When we're going to school, we actually, even in our classroom, we suggest that our students bring in a picture on their first day. And if they want to hang it up on the family tree, we have a tree in our classroom that they could hang it up. And if they needed a spot to go and just talk with their family because they couldn't see them in person, it was a place that they could go, and we could see their level of anxiety and worry go down less when they could see a picture of their family. So this, I find, gives words and gives tools for families who may not think to do those things. It's, you know, let's get in the car and let's get going, instead of just slowing down and realizing, you know what, maybe we do need something to get us through a new situation. So Kathleen and Debbie had kind of put this on me on Thursday, saying, would you want to do a conversation with Dr. Jean? And of course I was like, oh, what? It's Dr. Jean, that's amazing. It's someone I've been, you know, following for years and years and years. But I was very nervous. So I was nervous about the taping part. I was nervous about what I was going to say. I would rather have a script, and I wasn't too sure. And she saw me going through some anxiety. She saw me in tears. She could hear me talk to my husband about it, my friend about it. And this morning on the way to her childcare center, she had said to me, she said, Mom, I put Bun somewhere in the house for you. And I said, Bun, why? And Bun is her little stuffy. So it's just something that she's had since she was an infant. And she said, because Mommy, I know that you're feeling anxious. She said, you're a little bit sad because you're crying, and I can see that you're a bit worried. And this is a 4-year-old. And, you know, she's been given this language through these books and through other conversations that we've had. And I said, wow, I had no idea to even think that I needed something for my Tinker box. But she had thought of it. So when I came to my workspace to get ready for it today, Bun was sitting on my keyboard. And I instantly knew that she was putting it there for me to get through today. And at that time, I said, why am I not, as an adult, thinking of something for my Tinker box? Because I think if I had thought of something whether it was a piece of jewelry that I needed to wear or something that made me feel comfortable and understanding that I can get through something so difficult. I could have had something too, but instead her bun got me through today.
Yeah.
Made it through, and I'm not crying and I feel better. So she
Yeah.
just so much empathy that we can get through books like this that they will learn from.
And she gave you a gift. She gave you a beautiful gift today, and you've shared it with us here. And for that, thank you so much.
And that in the last page, I won't say it all, but in that last page when it says we can do this together, that's how I felt. She's not here with me, but we got through it together because she gave me something that made me feel safe, that I also knew that made her feel safe. So we got to remember a tinker box for everybody.
Well, and we need to think about co-regulation goes two ways.
So I am back, everyone. And I hope you can see this next slide, okay?
Yep, we see it good.
All right, great. So this is now all 4 books that we have in the series. When Nadine was talking, we had only published book 1. And as of last week, we published the last 2 books. And they're called the Tires, Wires, and Brakes series. Book 1 is Opie Needs a Repair. Book 2 is Opie Gets Overheated. Book 3, Opie Takes a Break. And book 4, Opie Has a Brainstorm. And the 3 main characters are Opie, Molly, and Tinker throughout all of the books. And they're all available. We self-published as Our Place through Amazon. And I was really excited to take a peek just earlier this morning. And I think Opie Has a Brainstorm and Takes a Break is at number 15 and 16 on the hot new releases of emotions and feelings, which is just what Amazon does in little categories, but it's just kind of cute to see, which is nice. All right. One thing I'd like to mention specifically that's really exciting for us, and because of our scientific advisor, Dr. Clinton, working very closely with us throughout the project, is that Opie Has a Brainstorm features Dr. Jean Clinton. And Opie needed someone to share the story about the brain, and Dr. Clinton is actually doing that in the story. So we're really excited about that, and hope that others will be as excited when they get a chance to see that as well. Here's some feedback that we've had from Kim Desparius and Lola Zils from Waterloo Region District School Board, Catholic School Board and District School Board. Just their comments having read the stories and also helping us focus test and then seeing the end results of the stories. And so we've really felt that, in getting the feedback, hearing what people have thought about it and adjusting and making many changes along the way to really adjust to what we were hearing. We learned from example, Loa and Kim is not be afraid of the big words, go after the big words. In Opie Has a Brainstorm, they're all the parts of the brain in full language and with explanations. So we kept to that. And also we have had lots of fun listening to the feedback from the children and the parents. One recent parent who did buy the first 2 books said she bought it for her 5-year-old, and then the 2-year-old took both books and put them in her room. So she had to buy another set, and she's already bought the last 2 books for Christmas gifts for them. So moving on to really what's the story behind a story. So we've put this information into a series of children's stories, which is the Tires, Wires, and Brakes series, but there's a lot of lots of layers to the story. And truly what is embedded in really a theme behind this is all about the brain. Self-regulation, we've realized, and co-regulation is about brain and the brain science. And so what we're trying to offer now are workshops for professionals and caregivers that can help to unpack this. Right now they are live workshops, so they say live in Zoom, but we might put that on webinar on demand eventually to see if there's interest in that. Everything is happening in the moment right now because we are just, like I said, we just finished publishing the last 2 books, and now we're really going to head into more promotion and helping people become aware of the books, to see if they can be of value for them in the work that they're doing or in their home as well. So I'd like to share a little bit about some of the first workshop we were thinking about and what we're looking at. Again, it would be, for example, looking at Opie's emotions in the story, and trying to relate to experiences that parents, caregivers, and children are having from this. So there's just an example of some questions, different things. And let's move on. And also looking at Molly as a co-regulator, and Molly's role as a co-regulator in the story. And the idea being it doesn't have to be a parent who is a co-regulator. Molly's a friend of Opie. Molly's a mechanic, and so is always there to help to support Opie. And this is an example of a line in the story. I know it's hard to talk when you're upset, Opie, let's fix this together. And Molly is connecting with Opie through words, voice, tone, touch, and body language, which we know is really important in regulation. And through this co-regulation, Opie is starting to shift to a more calm and relaxed state. And then what about Tinker? We're very surprised about Tinker and how Tinker was echoing with the children and the parents as well, as you heard from Nadine's story. And Tinker holds items that help Opie soothe, find comfort, regulate, and it's unique to everyone. So everyone adds tools that can work for them. And that's the concept behind Tinker. So what's next? We have workshops that are going to be available, as I said, for professionals and caregivers. We can organize specific workshops for groups on demand. We hope that we are using the books in our programs to help share about co-regulation and the brain, and hope that others might as well. And if you are interested, please do follow us and also visit our website specifically about the Opie books. You can learn more about them there, and you can get a click to go and order them if you're interested, but you can also go directly to Amazon as well. And that's my email address as well to connect with me. And that's the actual presentation for today.
Oh, goodness. Thank you so much, Debbie. This was
end the show. And I'm just going to stop share, okay?
Okay.
All right.
All right. It has been just really fascinating to go through this journey with you, from sort of the inspiration and the process of, you engaged in that design thinking and kind of, it really seems like it's been a really thoughtful, intentional process.
Yes, definitely. We weren't looking for the quick solution, and we had no idea what we were going to learn and find along the way, which I think was part of that that research and that problem identification that was really important. And as I said, looking at the goals, co-regulation was not mentioned at all in those goal statements. And really what we talk about now more is about co-regulation and self-regulation. We've realized just how significant it is, co-regulation is as part of self-regulating to help support yourself in regulating yourself. You need others often. So that concept of lending your calm and having someone who's calm helping you when you need a time to help regulate.
Yes, absolutely. So I really appreciate that you're, able to be, as you say, fluid and go with what has come up. So before we wrap up, just a chance, if anybody who is here does have a question for Debbie, feel free to, let's see here. You should be able to unmute yourself if you want to ask a question or put something in the chat. And while folks are thinking about that, you mentioned that I heard in one of the videos, you talked about engaging with families, I think, over Zoom. So I'm just wondering, do you have any suggestions or tips thinking about perhaps if some of our members, get the books and use them in their programming in terms of ways of engagement, both in person and over Zoom? Do you have any?
Oh, yes. Yeah. So yeah, actually, as you say that, we actually did some work on, and many of us have been doing this, of course, and have learned so much over this time. At the beginning of the pandemic, we did some exploration of virtual play with 3-year-olds, because we had heard that it's really hard to do that with 3-year-olds. And we actually tried it, and that was part of the project as well, because we wanted to, as we were doing this, we were actually looking at how can we support families through the pandemic. And so we actually have some really one facilitator who has done that great work. And we have Megan, who is our lead on that. And she's actually gone to a number of the school boards and done presentations on that in a number around the province. Yeah. So actually, as you say that, we can speak to you more about that. I think I won't do this much justice as her and Ashley, who have done that key work. And they've worked on, and the engagement that they could see with the children back and forth was great. So they were able to try different techniques that actually made that or helped that along. And I think that was so key for the parents because they were worried at that time, of course, as they continued to be over time. Where was the socialization going to come? How was my child going to enter school? And that's what it was called, bridging to school. Like it was that virtual play came out of that from the parents' concerns that they were worried about. And we had some great quotes from the children. Like one said, one parent said, her daughter said, it's time to everybody be quiet because she's going to her meeting, because that was her meeting to,
Cute.
and so it was just really that they were engaged with each other and interacting with each other, which was really interesting. So again, the tips of how to do that, I would say reach out. I can put you back in touch with Megan, and we've got some great presentations about that as well.
Okay, I think we might just follow up with that. And,
sure, that we get another, if you're interested in that specifically, even Megan would be able to come potentially. And we, with the focus testing that we did, we really did the read the story with the parent present, and it was just and parent and child discussing together what they were hearing at the, having that. And then we also did the focus testing where the parent read the story, but we were off screen. So, but we observed, and with the parent, of course, saying this is okay, and we would record it, and then we would review it and then see what was happening. And many of the ideas that we have in the story came from the children, like as they were talking about. So, for example, one child was starting to sing to really make Opie, to try to help Opie feel better at the moment. And so we know singing is really important for regulation. And so that shows up actually in book 4, and as a comment about regulating.
Wow. Yeah, again, just really demonstrating how with this project, you're willing just to take information as it comes, right? And incorporate it into what you're doing, which is really lovely and magical. Well, I do see, actually, I see there's a hand up. Kim, I'm glad I noticed it. Sometimes I don't notice those electronic hands. Hi, Kim.
Hi, this is absolutely wonderful. I'm excited. I want to get these books right away.
I know. I want to get my hands on them.
I have my 4, just so you know.
Oh, nice. I really like the little video of the people reading to the children, and it really role modeled, asking those open-ended questions, stopping, and taking the time and involving the children. And I was thinking to myself, oh my gosh, that would be great. To be able to use that and say, these are some ways that you can use these books with your children. And I wondered if that video, if that was available, or are you thinking about that at all?
So we have the video of Nadine talking with Dr. Clinton on our, so if you go to Opie Books, like at our place, Opie Books, you come to a landing page and it has a lot of information about the books and that particular video. The one I showed you was from our event, and that had the extra piece around the video clips. And we don't have that one on, but I'll see how a way we can add that one. I just have to get the person who did that thing to be able to put that version of it on our site. So
yeah, I thought it was all great, but I thought that was really good. I thought I think parents would really be able to relate to that.
Yeah. Thank you. That's a good feedback, because that actually would be good to put on and have, even if we can't show that one, maybe some other ones, we can show some other clips as well too. And the interactive part you mentioned, we heard the feedback from the parents who are buying it now, saying that that's what their children are really liking. The fact that they get drawn into and they are engaged in it and they're asked questions along the way for themselves.
Yeah. Oh, good. I think it's a book that lends to that quite easily, right? Like the little I've seen. Yeah, I can't wait.
Thank you. We thought it was really important that rather than putting a report on a shelf, like how you get everyone talking about these ideas and what's happening for everyone. And also, rather than saying, come to a workshop on self-regulation or co-regulation, come to a workshop and talk about Opie and what's going on in Opie, and talk about, so for parents, we've actually had great feedback from the parents who came to the original workshop was, yeah, this is really helping me. And I'm getting to understand what's going on, and I'm understanding it from this brain perspective that I didn't really realize before. So we really insert a lot about the brain into the workshop. So they're not, it's not in the books. The very last book talks about the brain and what's going on, which actually ties it together. But if you read book 1, you're not going to read about the brain until you get to book 4.
Excellent.
Taking us on a journey for sure.
Yes, yes.
Thanks so much, Kim.
Thank you for your comments and your question. I really appreciate that.
Mhm. Okay, well, I'm not seeing any other hands raised or questions, so I think we're coming to the end of our time together. Debbie, it's been a real pleasure to have you with us. And thank you so much for taking us on this journey with Opie and this whole wonderful initiative. And we look forward to hearing more and maybe reaching out and having the follow-up session with your associate. What was her name?
Megan Snyder.
Sorry, right. I'll follow up with you and
Okay.
yes, I think that might be really wonderful to get some of her wisdom, what she's learned around virtual engagement. And I see Nancy is said thank you, and she's ordered her books.
Wow, that's great. Awesome. You guys are amazing. And any feedback, we love it. We'd love it. Really, truly, we really appreciate it. And we can adapt and shift. The books are done. We have no more coming. We really felt this was the story that we needed to share, and it's sort of there. But it's just, we want to hear how it's impacting, and then we'll incorporate that into our workshops and, you know, and be able to talk more. So thank you so much for those of you who do get them, and let me know how you're using them and how you're finding them. That would be great.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, hopefully we will stay in touch. And thanks to everybody who was able to join us in person today. It was great to have you here. Keep your eye out. I'll be sending an follow-up email with a little survey. We appreciate your feedback on all our network events. And next month we have a webinar in November, which is next month, I guess, on promoting healthy development and understanding ACEs and resilience. So that's on November 12th, and that's coming out of the work happening in Guelph and the coalition there. So I look forward to seeing you then. And again, thank you, Debbie. A real pleasure, and I hope you have a lovely rest of the day and rest of the week.
Thank you so much. It was great to be here. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for inviting me and our place. Really appreciate it. Have a great day and weekend coming up, everyone.
Excellent. Take care. Bye-bye.